here we are, the end of a long picture book retreat, especially long for you because you've been coordinating and doing all the, the behind the scenes work. So how has it been to like put all this together? This is
the pinnacle of sort of 10 months work, which got sort of ramped up in the last 2 months to make sure all the speakers are going to be here on time. Everyone had got different programming schedules. That's the admin side of it, which is a bit of a pain, but it's necessary to get us here to enjoy picture books. And picture books brought me and you together. We met here, 10 yards from where we sat. We last met, we've seen each other online, face to face, and we've had podcasts and Zooms, but we last met face to face in Bologna, which seems quite bizarre, doesn't it? From that giant, chaotic book fair down to this bijou, intimate, wonderful weekend. It's good how we can get this varied world of picture books that we like to be in.
Yeah. One of the things that I was talking to Natasha, and she was saying that the volunteer system in Scooby is a really important thing, and I know that you're one of the volunteers that makes stuff happen, and it's not just like helping out. I mean, there's a lot going on, and how important is Scooby for the organization? How important are volunteers and people who are willing to like contribute?
They're the lifeblood, really, aren't they? They're the framework that holds it all together. You don't realise that when you first join. You just think, yep, there's a group, it exists, it's got illustration, masterclass, conference, and then the more you get into it, there's key people that you start seeing that know what's happening. And then I think it's natural that you feel like, I want to get involved, I want to commit some time to this because I've got a lot from it. So that's what I did with Picture Book Retreat and conference to some respect. And you get more from it, you start mixing with people more. And then just the actual sitting in, like we've done this weekend, sitting in workshops, can relax a bit and get valuable information. Like we've had Amy Sparks this weekend, haven't we, writer, and she put together that excellent set of slides about to analyse with a bit of an objectivity and business mind, analyse your story. Because we get too involved. And being author illustrators, we get involved in the romantic, the feeling side or the emotions in it. You do need, we now know, don't we? Because we've done it so often, we need to step back and look at it with a business eye and objectivity. Does it work on all these different levels? And if it works on those levels, when we get into it and we're dealing with the visuals, then it's going to be that much better as a product.
Yeah, those 5 E's were really good. They're really simple, but at the same time, the whole process that she outlined, but to really look at things more objectively and to think that, there's the inspiration side, but then there's also the kind of making it work properly thing. And that it's only by asking ourselves those kind of questions that we can come further with our work. Because it's so easy to just, like you said, be inspired, write down stuff and think, oh, it's so romantic and beautiful, or drawing pictures and writing things. But then to ask those kind of questions, who is this for? How is it going to work? Does it have energy? Does it have, pace? All those kind of things are super important. And to not be afraid to change and make,
Because you realise the more you've been involved with it, the editors are looking for that. They know, maybe not specifically ticking boxes, but they know inside themselves that this book works because it's got all those energy, excitement, entertainment, and all the other aspects.
I thought you were going to remember all 5 there. I was like, I couldn't remember.
Was that 3?
Yeah.
Emotion.
3. Emotion.
Energy, energizing, excitement, entertainment. And was there a 5th that she said most people do forget?
Yeah. But we'll put them up on this picture so we can remember, because it is really, it's really good to ask those kind of questions. Then she had other questions, of course, too. And Johnny had a similar thing when it came to the character. So, you're drawing a character, and one of the things that was really fantastic about his stuff is that there was this in-depth thought, even on the minor characters. And then he had all these questions like, oh, what is this character's parents? Who are they? What are the most important things? What favorite color does it have? What does it like to eat? Whatever that character might be. And then you start to think, oh, I haven't asked myself those questions. But I think that people who are doing this at that level, they are asking those important questions. That's why we have to make sure we're doing it
It
too.
made me feel a little bit lazy, thinking, I should have done that.
And all the extra drawings that were never meant to be seen, that are totally focused. Like you and I both are sketching a lot, but he's like thinking, okay, I have this character here. What does it look like if he's like in a bathing suit? Even though it's never going to be in a bathing suit or whatever, right? He'll just do anything to make it like,
What does the character look like if it's happy, if it's gone to the seaside, if it's won a prize?
Yeah.
Really know the ins and outs of your character, so you know a rounded character.
Yeah.
But yeah, the minor character, it would be satisfying to do that. You just probably, like I said, feel a bit lazy. It takes a lot more time, but just fun to work out in a sketchbook. Start putting. I had that character interrogation A4 sheet last year.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more involved and comprehensive. That slide that Johnny had up on screen, and more fun things like he said, what have they got planned for the weekend? What would be a good night out for them? What really annoys them? You might never need that in a story, but you know that character's got, and that might inform something in the facial features.
Yeah.
Or he said he might like to pop a little emblem or some little sign in the picture because he knows that character likes football or something. He's got a football badge, for example. So I'm going to start looking at his pirate books again now and go
See all
through
the little extra bits.
I like that bit where he said, I can't remember which book it was, but he said no one's ever spotted it. He tilted each spread.
Yeah.
So
it was his first book, he said. Yeah.
The Pirate
so it was
Crunch.
like being on the...
So it looked like the pages were rocking, like on the ocean.
That's that attention to detail to such an extent that you don't think that you might even need to do. But by doing that, you're crossing all the dots. You're making sure that everything is really the way that you envisage it. And that's super important, isn't it? Because it's so easy to kind of think, oh, isn't this good enough? But the question isn't, is it's good enough for some editor or some publisher? The question is, does it really live, And I think that came through with what Amy was saying too, like, is this thing really living for you? And if it is, then you'll have the energy to follow it through to the point where you make it happen.
And I think you know yourself, don't you, that it's not reached that level. And you think, surely it's good enough for what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But if you don't give it that background extra oomph, it can only be more successful. Every time we do something like this, we add a little bit more knowledge to like our skill level and what we're collecting to help us go forward better.
Yeah, it's funny because like I won the little pitch thing, right? Where you pitch, and maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I would have thought, I won't be able to write a little pitch in 10 or 15 minutes or an hour, whatever you had. And then I was like, I could feel, because I could formulate something based on some idea that I had in the past in a much better way. And it was like, you could say, oh yeah, you could have done that years ago, but I don't think so. I think the skill and the way that I've been working slowly, feels like very slowly, towards publication, and then, towards what might the future be, is it's having an effect. I noticed that with my drawing as well. Like, if I sit down now, we did this thing, we're going to copy Darby from the Harry Potter book that Johnny had done. And my Darby was just like the one on the, pretty damn close. And I was like, yeah, I could look at something now and just, right?
Just capture it.
All that small things make a big difference to your skill level. And you think, oh, I've been doing lots of stuff for many years, but I'm always improving. And that's like a big part of the whole thing here. It's like a place to improve.
We talked earlier this weekend about recognising if you're in that groove of doing good work that feels like it's you, feels like it's good. And it's so easy to be near that groove, sometimes dropping into it, and then just being to the side of it. And I think the successful illustrators who got loads of books out and really busy, like Johnny, like other people we had at conference, they're in that groove. So they don't have to bother about where we are. They just can concentrate on getting their stories delivered. So I've been in that position at times. I recognise it. And I think that's what we as more experienced creatives need to get over when we're doing one-to-ones and mentoring with people that have been here this weekend that might have come for the first time or just starting out on their careers. You can see them sometimes miles away from that, but not too far that you can't help them. And they've realised when they've listened to Amy and Johnny how to get nearer to producing that less problematic book that, you know, it's not going to keep getting rejected.
What do you think is the one thing that people could take as a takeaway in terms of getting into a groove? What do you think is the number one thing that they can do? I know what I think, so I think
recognising that you're not always in it and not thinking, oh, I'm a failure, I can't do it. I've hit a brick wall or I'm off track, to keep that metaphor. Recognising that as part of the process, and it's a long process, and that's necessary to get to where you need to get. It's not something that you have to stop and think, I'm giving up, because like Johnny said, adults, the writers, were a bit reticent to draw. They draw and they don't like what they're doing, saying, I can't draw, because they've just lost that spontaneity of not caring what it looks like. They can draw, but they want it to look really good. And you can't do that at that stage unless you've done lots of it. So recognising that you're going to hit obstacles and come to dead ends and not get, you know, depressed by that and down. So what was your...
My thing was, so I tend to do the same thing, like you said, like get depressed and feel like there's a project I've been working on for a long time and I feel like it's just not good enough. I think it's pretty good, but it's not in the groove yet, right? And one of the things I can take away from this is that you might feel that you're like alone in that, but if you continue, you can break through, and you can do it by asking, especially for a lot of critique and seeking out the things that you don't want to hear. I think a lot of times I don't want to hear, you know what, you actually have to redo that whole thing, you know, because you work so hard to get it to that point, and you think, I'm never going to make it, and if you do that, it will be so great if you step into that.
And if that's the part you're fearing to hear, you know inside, that's where the problem is. That's happened with a picture book of mine earlier this year. I knew there was a problem area. I tweaked it without changing it comprehensively. And I did get some feedback from an editor. They honed straight in on that. Said, nice, but that little bit there, which is the ending, is a problem area. So given the tools that Amy's given us, I'm going to go back and like filter out the bits that I've been putting off changing. Even if nothing comes of it, it's an exercise, it's experience, and we learn from it. Yeah,
and the second part of that, in one of the reasons that, you know, Scooby and other organizations are so good is that I feel like, you know, having met you, that I can now ask someone who has the kind of eye, sees where I'm trying to get to, and can give me some pointers, suggestions, and things. I think that's one of the most invaluable things, is that you're not in this alone, right? There are people that you can connect with, and critique groups and friendships that you make that can help push you through. But you have to seek that yourself, actively seek and take responsibility to make sure that you don't get stuck and say, oh, they don't like this, they don't like that. It's just about you continuing to grow. Maybe that comes in and you feel like that and you think, oh, I'm not good enough, they're all this. Make connections with someone, dive in deeply, get that response, and keep working, you find your groove, right? That's what I think. That's what I've been sometimes reluctant. I'm like, oh, do I bother Paul with this because I don't think it's good enough? And like, what?
Yeah,
you know, why? Like, that's not the way.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And there's always someone that's that little bit more advanced than you in what you're doing. And like you said, push yourself, they can pull you along.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of these events like Picture Book Retreat, because you get to meet them, we can chat like this. Book events like Bologna or even conference, you don't get that time to sit down and have a chat and get a book out and like late at night just go through a book and give each other a review, which we've done online since the last Picture Book Retreat, and we're going to repeat again, meet once a month and submit some stories to each other. Not polished, finished, but just to give us that bit of discipline and that drive and impetus to keep coming up with some new ideas. And that's proved quite fruitful, hasn't it, in the
for
last
sure.
12 months.
Yeah.
So we'll be repeating that.
All right, so to wrap up, it would be just like, one of the things for me is that we make connections. This is perfect at a picture book retreat or at the conference or any of the other kind of events. It's super important to connect with people that you just naturally get along with, and that people that can then help you work with yourself, because you have to take the responsibility so that you build your own career the way that you might see it. And don't be afraid to make changes. You know, it's not totally easy when you work so hard on something, but it's okay, because now everything's digital.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The one takeaway we took from Bologna was be you. I think what I take away from this weekend is don't be over precious about your sketches, even about your finished work. If it doesn't work, they've got to be changed, they've got to go.
Yeah.
You can't afford to be over precious.
Yeah. And for me, it's don't be alone. So don't be over precious and don't be alone.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much from the Picture Book Retreat at Holland House. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good.
Nice.